It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan even though the Olympics were cancelled. The police here have augmented their harassment of foreigners by using the Olympics as an excuse. The police are back to normal, harassing foreigners for no apparent reason. The Talk Funny podcast from Nagoyaradio.com and Nagoyacomedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
It's Mark Bailey, Mike Miller. We're here back with Talk Funny, and I was just saying, Japanese always say they only like Japanese rice. Okay, maybe not invade other countries then, because they have different tasting rice. We like Thailand, but we don't like Thai rice or the people very much. We just want a version of Okinawa that's warmer than Okinawa without all the Thai culture and stuff. And that king, we're not that happy with him either.
What about the tuk-tuks?
And the tuk-tuks, it's not like they were built by Mitsubishi, so...
We'll take you, but I swear I will take you to the jewel market. And my friend, he has a very nice jewelry store there.
My friend has never been with a guy before. She decided tonight that she wants to be a prostitute. So you'll be the first one. She's a virgin. She has 3 kids. Okay. Are you tying one on with me? We're talking about the Berlin airlift, and I'm having to evacuate everything I don't want thrown away from my house. Because this is the thing you have to understand. It's not necessarily malice. When I finally confronted my wife about throwing all this stuff away, she did not take it well.
After you woke up.
Yeah.
When you regained consciousness.
She did not take it well.
Yeah.
And just in a nice way, I said, you can't throw other people's things away. I'm not going to stand for that.
Mm-hmm.
Jewish karma is a really bad thing. Yeah. So sayonara to your coat that you bought. But no, so she said, no, but I'm cleaning. I'm really doing my best to clean. And I said, yeah, Japanese women do this a lot. Cleaning and clearing out are 2 different things. Mm. When you take your car to a car wash, you still come back with your car, right?
Right.
You don't throw the car away.
Right.
Right? You wash your car, it's clean. It's a better version of the car. Mm-hmm. But when you clean my room, it's empty. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not cleaning, that's excavating, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, why am I living with the enemy? We had recruitment stories. What did you
I don't have a recruitment story. I think you're talking about recruitment by one of those agencies of a certain type. I had... years ago, I had an uncle who was working for a certain agency of that type, not as a kind of agent or anything like that, but he was doing certain technical things for them.
Was
and
Canadian?
Yes, Canadian. And he suggested that I should apply, and I applied, but my heart really wasn't in it, and I didn't. I submitted a really crap application, and they didn't accept me, and I think it's for the best, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of like the foreign service in Canada, or probably in the U.S. as well, is that people think that this is their ticket to go around the world and live a life of luxury and an extravagant life that's full of excitement and danger. And we all know, as you and I know, that life is actually ESL teaching abroad.
Of course.
So, I dodged the bullet on that one.
Well, I've sold a lot of my businesses, and at one time I had 10 to 12 businesses. One of them was divorceinjapan.com. I should have paid a lot more attention at the time, but I sold that to a divorce lawyer, Japanese guy. His story is he's in Indonesia now. That's what he says, and I believe him. You can wave at him. He's actually across the street.
What's his slogan? I'll get your children or your money back? Is that it?
We'll save all your Italian coats. And so I sold that, and I wasn't paying attention at the time, but what we did on that website, took testimonials, and we paid guys who've been through it, especially it was mostly for guys with kids, because you really get screwed if you're a foreigner. Well, I think we take a lot of this for granted, but people don't know this who are listening outside of Japan. Whether male or female, if you're married to a Japanese spouse and your kids are young, the foreigner will not get custody. In the States, it's usually women. It's 90% or more women get custody. In Japan, it's 100% Japanese person gets the custody in an international marriage. Let's say you have 6 and 8-year-old kids, and you divorce, the in-laws will see to it that you never see your kids again. And never.
Yes.
Until after, 22.
And this is the kind of a thing like where we were talking about Carlos Ghosn, that, it was really sad that he was singled out as a foreigner and he was submitted to that kind of treatment. But this is also the same kind of treatment that a lot of Japanese fathers receive. They never see their kids. Like Koizumi, the Prime Minister of Japan, he and his wife divorced. He never saw his kids until they became adults, basically. But it's even worse for foreigners, of course, because of the compounding factor that you're a foreigner, you're not from here, maybe you're going to go home, so let's give custody to whoever's the Japanese spouse, right?
And to compound that with the fact that a lot of foreigners only are here because of the spouse visa. Once that's gone, you're gone.
You can refuse it after that, yeah.
And so, the smart move is to get your permanent visa. I have that. A lot of foreigners have that now. And so even if you get divorced, you're still here. You can work for yourself. A lot of good things. It's kind of the equivalent of a green card.
But there's an interesting case recently where this guy who is a commentator for a Japanese sports channel There was Typhoon Hagibis, it was called in English. I forget what it was in Japanese. He got divorced from his wife. Hadn't seen his kids in months because she got custody, of course. He went to her house and only to the parking lot. He wanted to see if they were still okay after the typhoon because it hit Tokyo. He was arrested for trespassing. They put him, and we talked about this in the previous episode, the old 23 days in the can. He served more than that. I don't know how many times they put him in the can. And he came out, he was released, and he made a statement to the press, and he said, I was just trying to see that my kids were okay because I have absolutely no communication with my ex-wife about the children.
Right.
And he was in jail for like a long time for that. Detention, I should say.
So the judges cooperate with the Japanese spouse punishing the other spouse. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. They punish the foreign spouse. You're never going to see your kids again until they're 22, whatever, 21, 22. This can also happen in the States where Japanese will kidnap their children from the American spouse, take them to Japan, and the Japanese government will not cooperate in giving custody to the American spouse because she's not a Japanese citizen, and they consider the kids to be Japanese citizens.
They signed the convention or whatever it is for human trafficking. So in Japan now, technically, you can come to Japan and try to get your kids back, but in reality, the court system is basically stacked against you.
And Debito Ardo had, if I'm not mistaken, he had a big case with that. It's become a cause celeb
Copenhagen Convention or whatever? I forget what it is, but anyway, something like that.
So it's biased against you, and that goes back to a point we did months ago on a podcast where we said the justice system is not for you, so you have to be careful. If you're a foreigner divorcing a Japanese woman, the judge, I sued my agent for stealing a lot of money from me, and I got a pittance back from what she stole from me. The judge just said, of course Japanese, just said, well, I think you probably agreed to it and you didn't realize it when you said hi.
Yeah, because you don't understand Japanese, right, Mark?
Yeah, I've been here 30 years.
You've only studied it for 30
I've
years.
only gone to level 1, so I haven't gone higher than that.
No, come on.
I've only passed level 1.
No.
I haven't passed level...
Japanese language proficiency test level 1 is just that's you need to be at level 0.00002. I think that's the one.
I even had a professor one time. I mentioned, I just passed level 1. He said, "Oh, congratulations! But do you ever think you'll ever be able to understand the Japanese mind?" And I said, "Does that exist?" You can
Hello, Patreon.
Well, I understand logic. Well, you're up the creek then. If you understand logic, you're in Rhode Island. We're talking about Sri Lanka over here. When you're up against Japanese people, I hate to say this, but it's a really good old boy, good old girl Japanese. It's inside nip baseball business. It's getting kind of nippy. It's always nippy. Hello, Patreon.
What? No,
I'm just saying, if you become a kamikaze pilot, it's all downhill from there. I mean, it's just... He really took a dive after he became a kamikaze.
No, I
don't know. It just... Not a lot of future for that guy.
Yes, I want to say this, and I want to be a little bit, serious just for 5 seconds. But the thing about Japan is that you have to understand is that it's not just that you're the foreigner. It's not just that you've come from another country. It's that in Japan, everything is about where you grew up, who your friends were when you were in elementary school, who your friends were when you were in junior high school, who your friends were in high school, who your friends were in university. And so if you're coming from some other part of the world where you did not go to school here, you're missing this complete social network that most Japanese people have. I have a student in a night class that I teach who goes to a reunion every year of his elementary school students, his elementary school classmates, to see their teacher who's still alive, which I cannot believe. The guy was 100, must be 100 years old, because this student of mine is 80. They do this thing, and they still do this tradition every year. If you're coming from God knows where and you don't have that network, you don't have that network.
And
that's the way it is.
They speak what language?
Yeah.
They speak what language?
Swahili.
Yeah, they speak Japanese, and they're all what? They're all Japanese.
I think it's what is it, Mongolian? No.
We're going to close this off soon, but that's the problem that they have with the hashtag #MeToo movement, where women were saying, I went to lunch and dinner and parties with my boss, and then he molested me, but it's inappropriate, the behavior that he exhibited on me. And now there's a backlash where CEOs will not meet with women. It's the Mike Pence syndrome. They will not have lunch with women. And the women are saying that's not fair. But it's also not fair that I have lunch with you and then 20 years later you tell me that I tried to make a move on you and that you didn't go further in your career. You're blaming that on me. You're saying that I threatened you. And it's 20 years ago. There's no evidence at all that I can prove that I didn't do that. So it's a backlash. I'm not saying it's justified, but I'm saying it's a backlash because if you accuse people at every turn, like in Japan, every time a foreigner goes up against the system, he loses. After a while, you kind of start to think, why be part of the system?
Loses is not the right word. It's crushed. Is crushed by the
demolished.
System. Demolished. Stepped on like an old cigarette, kind of, and that crushing movement they do with the foot. Even Debito, our hero, I love you, Debito. Thank you if you're listening. People give you a lot of crap, and we talked about you earlier. But
it's a minority of foreigners. I mean, most of us respect them.
He's the only person who stood up for foreigners' rights in Japan and made it his issue, and I respect him so much for that. His name, what was his name? His original name was David Aldwinkle, but then he became a Japanese citizen, so he had to change his name to like a Japanese-sounding name.
Yeah, he's out of Rosa Parks.
He is.
It's a very small minority of foreigners who, it's just guys who just got off the boat and they say, I don't know why you guys are Japan bashing.
Because it's so awesome here. It's like Disneyland, right?
Yeah, the first 2 hours are amazing.
Yeah.
The last 30 years, meh.
I think it's kind of, yeah, exactly. I think it's kind of like Disneyland. If you go to Disneyland, you go there for like one day, you're like, this place is amazing. It's wonderful. All these great rides and all this. If you go there for like a month or 2 months and you talk to the actual people who work there, you realize how it's not that great a place.
Well, I've got this thing that I've done on stage where I say the stages of coming to Japan as a foreigner. Your first day, it's like people are just amazing. This is amazing. They have such technology. I mean, even the toilets are advanced. Yeah, the elevator manners, not so much. They still won't let you off the elevator before they get on. That's not really advanced.
Yeah.
But the first, they're just amazing. And the second stage is, they have a different word for everything. And it's so fresh. I mean, they don't say you're wrong. They say chigao.
Yeah.
They say you're different. Yeah. But then your third stage is, wait a minute, that means if you're different, you're always wrong. Mm-hmm. You're different. Oh, you're black. Chigao.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gay.
Yeah.
Chigao. You Jewish?
Yeah.
Nah. Chigao means nah.
Yeah.
So if you're on a game show and they'll say, A, ka, B, ka, C, is it A or B or C? B? Chigamas, it's different.
Chigamas.
You are wrong, you loser, in translation, right? And then the next stage is, there are some things I like about Japan, and there's a lot of things that I miss about my home country, like the U.S. I miss variety. Japanese say they love food, but they mean white rice by that, and tofu. And tofu kind of tastes like paper to me, and then white rice tastes like dry paper, and then tofu tastes like wet paper. They say they love food, but they mean Japanese food. They don't have furniture a lot of times. It's tatami rooms, and they don't cook their food like Japanese cooking. Is that really a thing? Do you really cook? And then I miss like the variety. I miss like you go down one aisle in a supermarket, and there's 148 flavors of Gatorade. Or you get ice cream. Haagen-Dazs, in Japan, they have a Haagen-Dazs vanilla. In the U.S., they have Haagen-Dazs. They have 170 flavors. It's 3 aisles of ice cream, right?
And the thing I would say, the same thing about Canada is that, even my hometown, which is not the most super diverse place in the planet, but it's getting more that way. You go to the supermarket, there's an aisle for Korean food, Chinese food, Japanese food, Mexican food, any kind of food you want. People ask me, like, what do you eat in Canada? What's your national food? And I'm like, well, it depends on what you want to eat. There's no national food. It's not like, well, I have to eat this. No, you don't. You don't have to eat anything you don't want to eat.
In New York, you want to eat Thai food at 4 a.m. There's a place not a mile away from you.
Yeah, of course.
And in Japan, well, the Thai place, they close at 8. But why?
Yeah.
But I want to eat it at 4.
Yeah.
But you can't.
Well, this is kind of a Nagoya thing, too, though, because Nagoya is not Tokyo.
But Tokyo also, they close. They also
do,
close.
That's true. You're right.
I was only able to eat
get ramen late night, but foreign
food,
you can get Uber,
so much. You can get pizza. Basically, it's pizza. And then the next stage is, there's a lot of things that are screwed up in my home country that I never realized. And there's things that if I left, I would miss. Yeah. I would miss kotatsu.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
They are
cool. I mean, I would probably find one in my home country and use that.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice. And Oshibori is kind of nice.
Yeah, Oshibori is nice.
These hot napkins.
Hot towels,
And I like it when you talk to a girl and you say, I finished all 4 years of my college degree. And she arches her back and claps. I'm going to miss that,
And onsen. And hot springs,
non-obesity challenge women everywhere.
Yes. And you know what?
Everywhere.
For me personally, lack of tattoos is a real turn on. I really don't like tattoos.
Not so many nose rings.
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of that.
So then you're kind of like, I would miss this if I went back to my country. And then your final stage, which I think I've been in for 12, 15 years, is pick your poison and deal with it. If you don't want to live here anymore, leave.
Is this equivalent to the Kubler-Ross stages of death, do you think?
I'm not.
Have you bargained with God yet? Oh. Please, give me a taco I want to eat in this town.
So you'll meet a guy in the first stage and he'll go, this country's amazing. And you tell him, well, my wife threw all my stuff out and blah, blah, blah. And my manager cheated me in Japanese line. I think you just don't
understand Japanese well enough, Mark.
Yeah, in Japanese line. He said, well, you're just a Japan basher. That's why you're
you're a Japan basher. It's obvious.
Right for the alien.
This whole podcast is about bashing this.
I'm a Japan basher. Could I get a street named after me after all the property taxes I pay? I own a house. That's the thing. When I went back to New York,
you need a bridge named after you. Beatty.
That I can jump off of.
Beatty Bashi.
Beatty Bashi is good. That I can jump off of.
Yeah, probably.
It's like
probably no railing.
when you talk to someone who's been here less time than you come off as jaded and bitter.
Yeah.
Because they haven't lived your jaded, bitter
Yes,
life.
they're
And then
just
you talk
waiting.
to someone who's been here longer than you. It's like, what happened with that guy? She threw your clothes out because you didn't try hard enough. If you had sold more Amway,
Yeah.
you would. It's just your attitude. Did you ever ask the universe, don't throw my clothes away?
Did you ever walk to the top of the pyramid, Mark?
Tom Petty and Stevie Nicks, stop throwing my clothes